How long is the show?
All right, good morning and many thanks for joining us as we continue to give you more discussions in relation to the business insight here on Smart Means Business. And of course, as we continue to give you more of those particular highlights, you will as well share with us your feedback on our socials, and of course also be part of our other programs. But of course, before we go into our discussion, remember to follow more updates in regards to Smart 24 Television, Smart FM, and that is NBS Codeo by downloading the Smart Digital app, where you can keep up to speed with real-time business updates, social life, and entertainment in regards to radio broadcasting. But well, before we as well get into the discussion, we remind you to grow your investments with the Zabo platform. Zabo is a platform by Altex East Africa, which says do something new. And well, if you're to choose something new that you can do today, all you need to understand is kickstart off your mornings with an idea of investment. Star 292 hash is a USSD code that you need to use to kickstart off your investment, and then fast forward after that you will be able to kickstart off your investment in the next 24 hours. Remember, with the Zabo platform, all you need to do is register with your NIN, and the minimum amount of investment is 15,000 Ugandan shillings. And Zabo is powered by Altex East Africa. Altex East Africa says do something new. Zabo, my money, my future. And well, in our discussion here now gets to the budget allocations for the next financial year in relation to the health sector. And well, of course, when you look at the situation, most of the civil society organizations continue to remind government to focus on saving the ailing health system in the country. There are quite a number of things within the health sector of which we have to discuss today morning and understand which priorities within this sector should government focus on in the upcoming financial year. Now, joining me this morning, I have Dr. Babatunga Charles, who is coming in from the Mulago Referral Hospital that is in Kampala, as we discuss this and more. Good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, sir. And good morning to our viewers. It's a very beautiful morning, and I'm delighted to be here.
Okay. All right. And first and foremost, if you're to look at Uganda's health sector, how is it faring according to you?
Today, when we talk about the health sector, indeed, the health sector is faced with different challenges.
Okay.
Health sector is faced with different dynamics. If you look at health sector is one sector which needs huge funding. If you were to look at the Abuja Declaration,
Yes.
2000, whereby all the EU state members are required to allocate about 15% of their budget.
Okay.
15% of the budgets. Now, in a country like Uganda, where we talk about a budget of about 52 trillion, and we are saying allocate 15% of this budget to the health sector.
Yes.
And you compare with what has been allocated over the years, you ideally see the challenge that the health sector in Uganda is facing vis-a-vis our priorities, vis-a-vis our health needs, vis-a-vis our health requirements, vis-a-vis our health training.
Yes.
So the challenge to me is enormous.
Okay. Well, of course, there has always been an issue. Earlier on in the show, we were as well discussing issues to deal with deployment of interns. I don't want to get into that for now, okay. But when you look at the health sector, there has always been a very huge concern from most of the patients in relation to lack of, facilities that can boost, the sector itself, mainly in upcountry areas. Now, for you who actually is currently more centered in the in town, you may not be facing some of these issues. But when you come to think of it, we're in the next financial year, and of course we think the ministry has to be prioritizing some of these key issues. Besides that, when you look at the facilities that are supposed to be availed, for example, in these hospitals, what do you think are the most core values from the health perspective do you think the government should consider while the national budget is yet to be presented?
Thank you. Ideally, the core path of health begins from the lower facilities, not at the national referral, but at the lower health facilities. If you look at our Ministry of Health ladder, we have a health center 1.
Yes.
Or the village health team. Okay? That's where the health of the population begins from. So from there, at health center or at the village health team, we expect that someone or the VHT, the village health person, will identify a sick person in the village, notify the next level, which is the closest would be a health center 2.
Okay.
That is a structure now of the government. At health center 2, from health center 2 to health center 3, from health center 3 to health center 4, from health center 4 to a district hospital, then regional referral hospital, then national referral hospital. So it is a cascade. But now, when you look at our health centers, let's say our health center 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
We are equally faced with challenges. Talk about staffing gaps. If you look at the staffing gaps, you realize that every day we don't have adequate staff.
Okay.
And we also don't have enough supplies. Talk of medicines, talk of soundaries, talk of diagnostic kits, all of them are inadequate. So what does this call for? Over the time, the Ministry of Health and its partners have tried to do what it takes to make sure that the supplies are delivered.
Okay.
But also, there are also shortcomings in the same process.
Shortcomings, like if you look at the shortcomings.
Recently, you saw the IGG storming the NMS, wanting to understand how do you do your supplies to the lower.
Yes.
The community is always complaining that
we lack medicines. We lack, we run short of drugs all the time.
We don't have medicines. We don't have supplies. So that means when you look at NMS, also tells you that we are underfunded. So the whole issue is all about underfunding, and lack of priority. But for us, we are saying the government should allocate more resources to the health envelope so that the systems are able to operate, the health centers are able to receive medications, they're able to receive supplies, they're able to diagnose, they're able to treat the population. So as of today, when you make a sample, this year we did what we call continuity of health services in most of our health centers and hospitals in face of emerging outbreaks.
Okay.
Today as a country, we are still under COVID-19 scare, notwithstanding the recent Ebola outbreak, which at the Ministry of Health, a very good job was done together with our partners. Even today, you understand that the head of state is under isolation.
Yes, because of COVID.
Because of COVID, which means there are many people in the community with COVID.
With COVID already.
If you don't put the right funding to procure the right diagnostic kits and have these services readily available, it means the population down there is going to keep getting infected with disease. And at the end of it all, it is a burden to the health sector. Okay? So, once we have proper channels, we have funds, we are able to detect, report, and manage disease. So we continue to call upon the government to remember the Abuja Declaration.
Okay.
That we need 15% of the national budget.
Going to help the health sector.
Yes, going to the health sector. Okay. Now, today our health sector budget, or what the government is giving us, is just about 7.2% of the national budget.
Because they've actually also, when you look at the next financial year, there is also a slight decrease in relation to how much is supposed to be heading to. For example, the National Medical Stores is projected to receive about 537.6 billion in the next financial year, and that is a funding shortfall at 245 billion according to what they were receiving this current financial year. So which means there is a big funding gap again.
Big funding gap. Now what does this mean? This translates into, which means this year I want to have still the same burden
of underfunding.
And when you have underfunding, it means the whole system is going to face challenges. That's why when you look at the Ministry of Health strategic plan, right now the focus is on prevention. Prevention. Because we have seen prevention helps so much to make sure that you reduce the disease burden. That's why we say prevention is better than cure.
Very true.
Now, you remember during COVID-19 lockdowns and whatnots, and the SOPs we had, washing hands with soap, social distance, masking, and the rest. You realize that as health systems, we saw very few cases of these common diseases.
Yes, so we were all focusing on the COVID-19.
We were focusing on the COVID-19 and ensuring that we have SOPs in place.
And in the long run, we are as well preventing other kind of diseases.
So we were preventing many diseases through the interventions. But once we relaxed, now at health center 4 levels or at lower units, they are still reporting
these
cases coming up. Okay? So we think we should continue educating the masses. We should continue drumming up the population to embrace the strategy of prevention. Because once you prevent a disease, it means you also cut down your budget. But then, how much is the health sector, or how much is Ministry of Health allocating to that core? Because you will find that the budget given still is minimal. There are shortfalls.
True.
So they cannot fund every gap. Okay? So you find there is little information, there is no communication, or there is no health education services being given to the communities. So we shall continue to have disease burden now and then, simply because of shortfalls in budget allocations.
Okay. Now, first of all, if you come to think of the community issues in the country here, especially up country, villages, those who, dispensaries reporting. When you look at also health center 3s, health center 4s, reporting cases in the country regarding lack of medical supplies. Have we in any way established some base from external forces to help us at least boost the health sector? Because by the look of things, government having this underfunding in the next financial year means they haven't prioritized as much as they say on paper. Now, do we have any external, let's say, organizations or bodies that have been helping us out this time around?
Yeah, we, over the time, we have seen that the health sector works hand in hand with partners.
Okay.
We have partners who come on board and who fund, and largely you see our budget as in the health sector is largely supported by external funding and partners. Talk about, we have the USAID project.
True.
Supporting various activities including HIV care. We have seen the Gavi fund, PEPFAR, and many other supporting our immunization strategies.
Okay.
You have seen organizations like Maldme. You have seen organizations coming up. You have seen World Health Organization coming up to support or funding some gaps hitting our health sector. So majorly is that our partners are playing a pivotal role to make sure that they extend a hand to our health sector, both at health center level and at a national level. They come up and try to patch up the gaps, okay? Which is a good thing, and we recommend them for that gesture, because working together, you see, health is a very big component. That's why we say, to say that someone is healthy, you must be psychologically, physically, emotionally, mentally upright, not merely in absence of a disease.
Okay.
Meaning that if you are to encompass all these corners, you cannot achieve it alone. You need partners who are coming on board, but government must take center stage to make sure we achieve, because the government is responsible for the health of the citizens.
Yes.
And must continue to mobilize resources, must continue to make sure that the health of Ugandans must be catered for, and citizens must receive health care.
Okay.
At all levels.
You mentioned something about mental health, and it brings me to understanding something here, and as well posing a very huge question. Mental health awareness in Uganda has not been prioritized, or we haven't paid a lot of attention towards it. And by the look of things, in the past few years, it does seem like it should be a very key discussion in our country in relation to how people relate to incidents, how Ugandans react, how how we deal with depression and all that. How is the state of our mental health in Uganda, and do we even have anywhere in the health sector where there is funding that is directly heading to the to mental health awareness? Because it does seem like there was a report that was actually saying 15 million Ugandans are mentally unwell. When you come to think of it, that's a huge number.
That's a huge number, and that's true. Right now, we are working on a proposal to do a national mental health assessment survey.
Okay.
What the Ministry of Health has done is to make sure that at every health center, district hospital, and the national referral hospital, there are mental health services.
Okay.
That we appreciate that. That is across. But now, Uganda, being that the biggest population in Uganda are the youth. And as youth, we are faced with different challenges, okay? In our day-to-day daily living. And now we have huge cases of drug abuse, okay? And we are attributing the mental cases we are seeing today as a result of drug abuse, okay? Now, it is a whole big issue. So we are talking about unemployment. So when the youth is unemployed and is idle, what do you expect them to do? One, they are into drugs, they are into betting, they are into sexual immoralities. So all these, what we are seeing today, are just the complications of unemployed youth, okay? When you visit, I don't know if you have ever visited the Tavika National Referral Hospital, which is our mental hospital in Uganda. When you visit the hospital, you'll find that about 65% of the patients who are admitted are in the youth bracket. Imagine.
The young people who are supposed to be energetic to build the economy.
Working, contributing to their nation, they are in hospital. And now, if you want to, if you look at them, most of them have drug abuse related conditions. That's why the mental status of our country is really on a time bomb, and we need to keep educating the masses. The only way we can overcome it is by educating our population on the do's and don'ts. You had the alcohol bill is still in parliament.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, what does it mean? Today, we have a certain population, or some Ugandans, at this time they're already in a bar, drinking. And also economic hard times, you know. When the population is not economically vibrant, it also causes a challenge. You saw an officer shooting a businessman.
Because of you know, you get to realize it's something to do with how we react.
How you react. Because this gentleman must have been stressed.
We are more reactionary now because of depression.
Very reactionary because there is a lot of depression, there is a lot of stress, there is a lot of mental disturbance. You end up reacting in a negative way. Okay?
Okay. All right, now, Doctor, after the break, I want us to look through the health sector now and pretty much scrutinize what you think should be looked at or what should be done. First of all, amongst you health practitioners and then the stakeholders in the health sector, especially the private sector, because I believe now the private sector has also taken up a stake in the health sector in the country, and also look at a little bit more of a future projection just in case the government decides to set up a supplementary budget for the health sector, because by the look of things now is that the health budget allocation is projected to drop by about 6.5% of the total budget, and that is up from a 7.7% that it was currently on. So you get to realize there is a drop there in relation to the allocation for the next financial year in the program Bestt budget. Health has always been a priority for Uganda, but because of the budget cuts here and there, you get to realize quite a number of sectors have been affected in the next financial year. After the break, we sum up our conversations, but pretty much looking at the private sector involvement in Uganda's health system. Good morning.